And there's Aaron.
Hello.
We don't, I think that's where you are, right?
What's that?
She said, yeah, I think that's where you are, right? Northern Virginia, she's across the.
Anyway, yeah, I'm
I
around.
think she said she was staying someplace.
I'm in DC. Yep.
What?
Okay.
Prince George's County, okay. You remember, yeah, but that's the DMV.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Janet Peckinpah, so nice to see you. We did. Thank you. Yeah, nice to see you, Ron.
Nice to see
Yeah, Ron.
Bob O'Connor. All right.
And Bob Reinhardt.
Wave to Aaron on the camera, Ron.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to see my butt on the.
Ron was, how many years were you chair?
5 or 6.
But on the commission for
A long time.
a
Yeah,
long
16. So
Yeah.
6.
Wow.
back when the log cabins.
Before indoor plumbing.
Hey, John, how you doing?
So, hey, John. Nice to see you. So you got a full agenda?
Big agenda, but we're hoping we can run right through it. We're not there yet.
You're not gonna do it? I said, if I didn't have something to do across the hall, I would.
All right. Good excuse.
Oh my God, that's here.
See what it's like sitting on that side of the table.
Yeah.
Have a good meeting.
Thank you.
So you had an email for me.
I will. Well, actually, he's walking at Hamo.
Oh, is he good for him? I see.
I think she.
He had a tough week, but yes, hopefully I'll work the kinks out.
Give him my love.
I will.
All right.
Because Aaron said we were gonna have Maria, do we have agenda and all the other goodies here or no?
I have the files right next to me. Hold on, I'm just trying to find out if I need to.
It's one of them, so I guess.
There's agendas there to pass out. I have the files here. What?
Yeah, Maria, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Aaron.
There's one handheld microphone that you can use if we have any applicants or members of the public who are interested in speaking. Yep, that one's fine. We'll just turn it on if somebody needs it, but we can hear you just fine from the table using that microphone system. So I don't think we need to have the other portable microphones out at this time.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So who do we have? We've got
It's your agenda.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 commissioners. I think everybody's here. We just have 2 more minutes, Carol.
Okay, we'll get started right at 7.
Carol, I'll mention that last week I was attending the annual hazards meeting in Boulder. It's the emergency manager. It's kind of a good meeting because every panel for the first 2.5 days is a practitioner as well as a scholar on hazards. So the idea is that the scholars will learn while the practitioners find their research useless. In most cases they do. So what information they don't have that they'd like to have. And the practitioners get to learn what the latest research is on how people respond to hazards. So, but the first day they start off, everybody, they just go around, all 600 something people introducing themselves. And so what's your connection with hazards? I used to list my employer. Now I list myself as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission in Madison, Connecticut. So I was very proud to do that.
I've worked with toxic chemicals, so I can just stop right
I
there.
take pride in that right there. So.
Did you hear her say? She's worked with toxic chemicals, so she's.
I just stopped there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What carcinogen would you like to know about?
Yeah, well, I'm certainly in your work with paintings. And, Yeah.
Yeah, we use some bad stuff.
And this is more like the natural
Um,
hazards.
Did you want me to print out staff reports?
I don't know, if we can pull them, we can just pull them up on the screen, I think.
I can pull them up if that's easier.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I emailed them to myself. It's really only two.
All right.
Okay.
And
We're
Carol,
ready when you are, Carol.
My phone says 7.
here's the files if you need to.
Thank you. Okay, will the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of July 20th, 2023, please come to order? We have 2 public hearings on our agenda tonight for special exceptions. So I want to take a few minutes to review the process for public hearings. During the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to join as a panelist to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The applicant or staff will share all application materials on the screen as needed. Comments of town agencies will be read for each.
That's me.
Yeah, we good?
Yep.
Comments of town agencies will be read for each application. If there are any, there will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. Then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from attendees. Please raise your hand through the Zoom platform or here in the town campus if you're here. And wait to be called on and unmuted. Next, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and then those who oppose may come forward. As this public hearing must be recorded, it is necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. The applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Land Use Department at 203-245-5631 after 9 a.m. All actions taken tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are members John Duza, Bob Reinhardt, Bob O'Connor, Janet Peckinpah, and joining us on Zoom, we have John Morgan and Mike Bogda, who's an alternate who I would like to seat as to fill a vacancy. Mike, is that okay with you?
Yes, please.
Great. And myself, Carol Snow. Staff present this evening via Zoom is Aaron Mannix, town planner. And the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube and will be made available on the town website for viewing. We also have Maria Patola here, helping us get through the meeting. Let's see. Additionally, I would like to ask that we treat each other respectfully. The town planner will now read the legal notice.
Carol, respectfully, there is no new legal notice, as both of our hearing items were continued from last month. So there was no new legal notice for this meeting.
Okay, great. In that case, we'll go right to our agenda. The first item is 23-11, a coastal site plan, which was a public hearing continued from June 15th, but we've recently learned that they have withdrawn their application completely. Is that right, Erin?
That's correct. We did receive a letter of withdrawal for the application.
And do we need to close the public hearing, or is that just...
No, the application's been withdrawn. So now we can just move on to 2319, which is the elementary school.
So this is the Town of Madison special exception permit for the construction of the new elementary school. It's a hearing continued from June 15th, 2023. I believe we're still waiting to hear back from what decision the Wetlands Agency made. Is that right, Erin?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm moving over our elementary school team. Just want to make sure I have everybody. Will just confirm your team. I have you, Bill. I have Justin Hopkins if needed on the architectural side. Is Chris Van Zanten also on your team?
Yeah, Chris Van Zanten and Ryan Dean should be hopping on. So if they hop on, you can let them in.
Okay.
And they're really only going to be in if there's any specific
In case
traffic
of
or LA
questions.
questions.
Sure.
Yep.
So I have one dial in. If I need to move you over, just raise your hand and I'll slide you over to a panelist.
So welcome to the team. Do you have new information to present for us or any updates?
No new information. I mean, would you like me to do a quick recap of what we talked about last time, or you want me? I have a few updates, not to the plans, but in terms of approvals and things like that. So let me go through those. Well, for the record, Will Walter, professional engineer with Alfred Benish and Company, representing the applicant. Since we last met, we have received our approval for our septic system from both Madison Health and from Connecticut DPH. Those are the two permitting authorities. So we're good to go with the septic system. We've received approval from Connecticut Water Company for the half-mile water main extension. So it's been designed and reviewed, and they've signed off on everything there. The town engineer has provided approval of our drainage system, which has been designed for peak flows and for water quality. Originally, he had a few minor comments. We addressed those comments, and now he's given us his formal approval. It's my understanding from Erin that her staff and the town staff has reviewed this, and they have no recommendations and no comments, which is really exciting. And then as far as inland wetlands, we had our second meeting last week. It was a very good meeting. We addressed, there's a third-party soil scientist who the commission hired to review the plans. He had, 10 or 12 comments. We responded to all those comments. We had a very good discussion, lots of back and forth with our experts, our team, and the commission and the third-party soil scientist. There's 2 or 3 what I would consider to be very minor items that need to be addressed. The public hearing was closed, and Erin is going to, they're going to, at the next meeting, we'll receive our approval at the next meeting, and then Erin will send me the conditions, and there's, again, 2 or 3 minor conditions that, we don't take any exception to. So that's where we're at. Our last meeting with this commission, you had a few really good comments that we answered. No one from the public spoke up. So I think there's really nothing else in terms of the site plan that I have to offer. If you want me to review anything, of course I can do that.
Great, thank you. Any
Yep.
questions from commissioners? I have one quick question. What number are you using for students, since we're now aware that there's maybe an increase in funding requirements?
It's the same number. I believe it's 640 off the top of my head. Maybe Erin, maybe you can let Justin in.
That's the number.
Or Bill. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
No
Great.
problem. And my name is Bill McMinn. I'm the director of facilities. I'm working with the committee. The chairman, Graham Curtis, I'm sort of helping out. He's not available tonight, so he wishes he could be here, but he had other commitments. So any questions, I'm happy to answer.
That number has not increased. That's the same number we made our application with.
Got it, thanks. I just needed clarification. Appreciate it. I think then we have the option of closing our public hearing, and we can move to deliberations at our August meeting. Does that make sense, Erin?
Yes, so the hearing was held open because of the wetland process. As the applications are running concurrently, we ended up needing some extensions just to balance that out. And as Will indicated, since your last meeting, we've had some additional comments roll in with respect to the inland wetlands review, the third-party environmental review, which were successfully addressed at the last inland wetlands meeting, as well as outstanding comments from the town engineer for drainage review, and those were satisfactorily submitted as well. And really, so there's no outstanding concerns from a staff perspective, and the health permits were approved as well. No real comments from the public at the last meeting, and there were no requests from the commission for the design team to return to you with additional information. So really, we're just kind of wrapping it up. You do not have to hold the public hearing open, waiting for inland wetlands to act. However, you cannot take action until the Inland Wetlands Agency takes their action. So closing the public hearing is fine. Beginning deliberations or suggestions for conditions of approval is fine. Staff would also recommend just our general construction conditions, adequate ENS controls, as-built, surveys of the stormwater systems, things of that nature, and on-site monitoring during construction activities from the design team. And then I would say if you'd like, we can, give it one last round for public comments, if there are any, and if you're satisfied, you can close the public hearing.
Thanks. Are there any members of the public waiting to be heard? Any other comments?
So I can't see the chairs, but I'm assuming no one is in person attending. We'll just ease into this this hybrid meeting format, I guess, here. If there's anybody attending via Zoom and you'd like to speak for or against the elementary school special permit application, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. No one has their hand raised, Matt. Oh, I take that back. Joe Ortoliva. Hi, Joe. If you could identify yourself for the record, you can speak for or against the application.
Hi, my name is Joe Ortoliva. I'm at 205 Green Hill Road. I'd probably say I'm in the neighborhood of that location, and I would encourage the staff to vote against it, mainly because, like I said, I live in this neighborhood. And I feel that a new school of that size and that magnitude would be out of character for the neighborhood. Right now, as you probably know, there's green, grassy fields there. And my understanding is that the zoning is for residential. And when I moved here, I looked at the zoning maps and I was aware that that area was zoned for residential. So I moved into the neighborhood with that knowledge. I didn't expect it to get changed to a special use function. And like I said, I just feel that it's out of character with the neighborhood. I don't usually participate in these meetings, and I don't know how far this has progressed, but apparently it seems to progress very, very far, where it's almost, I'd say, a done deal, where, a lot of expenses have been done. And, I was aware of the vote last year. I voted against it. And the question on the vote really didn't say anything Muggertown Road until you really only realize it until you dig into the documentation. I don't know what more to say. I just feel really bad that it's changing the character of the neighborhood. And I feel that there are other properties that are available and that do not have to be purchased that would be more suitable for a school of that magnitude and of that appearance. That's really all I have to say. Like I said, I'm afraid this is a done deal. It just sounds like it. So I just wanted to state my stance, and I would urge the staff to vote against it. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you.
We appreciate your comments. Yes. Understand. There have been many, many meetings and traffic studies and other studies, I think. And, I think the concept of creating a sort of school campus with the high school and the middle school was part of the planning process. But we understand that you thought you were buying into a residential neighborhood, and it's about to change, I think. Any other response? Anyone else, Erin?
No, no one else has their hand raised, Madam Chair.
So,
one quick question.
Yeah,
How does the land swap play into it? Wasn't there an exchange of land from the town to the land trust for this land?
There's a, yes, I can speak to that, John. There's a portion at the east side of the property that a portion of both the Daniel Hand piece on Green Hill Road, as well as this piece that will be transferred to the land trust, that will physically separate the two campuses and create that protected greenway corridor there along the Neck River. And that was approved by town meeting. And so that process is underway currently, working with the surveyor and the attorneys to get that transfer completed.
So it seems like it's a little bit of an offset for the impact that the new school will have.
Very positive.
And actually, Erin, you raise another point, which is that we have on file an email from Jim Nordgren about requesting more native plants be used for the landscaping, and that's not really anything in our regulations. You know, landscaping is, but not specifically native plants. But I do believe that along the Neck River corridor, there's a proposal to work with the land trust and do as much native plant landscaping as possible. So, yeah, Bill.
So I know the chairman is very actively pursuing that. You know, with the land trust, I know that the high school environmental club has been involved. They've already had a field trip out there. So, you know, we're committed. We haven't made any hard plans, but I know that we're committed to do this natural plantings. And I believe that we're going to follow through on it. That's our intentions. It has been from the beginning.
Super, thanks.
And Madam Chair, the landscape architect for the project is here. If you had any specific questions about the landscape plan, although I do believe that was walked through at the last.
Yeah, I think it was covered well at the last meeting. But thanks for the offer. Any other questions?
Thanks, Ryan.
Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
In a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. And I'm wondering if we can deliberate tonight, or we could wait until our next meeting when we have more information
From the,
from wetlands.
yes,
Yeah.
we should wait.
Okay.
Wait, yeah.
Well, so just to speak to that, if there were any recommendations from this commission or suggestions for conditions of approval, you should discuss that now, so that staff can take that back and draft you a resolution for review at your next meeting. You can't act tonight, but you can at least, let me know if anything stands out or anything seems to be of importance for conditions. Otherwise, I will draft, some of our standard language for you to review at the next meeting.
I think we're all quite impressed with the project, and happy with the presentations we've had so far. It does seem to be very thoroughly done, and your presentation last month was excellent. Thank you for that. So I don't think we have further comments or questions. John Morgan or Mike Bugda on?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. No one here. Okay, good. So I think to be continued in August.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moving right along, we have pending applications. There are 3 that are coastal site plans. And do we have applicants here?
Yes, Chuck Mandel from Stevens and Associates is here on behalf of the next 2 applications for you. The first is 23-28, 125 Garnet Park. Chuck, take it away.
Yeah, good evening. Chuck Mandel, agent for the applicant, John Belota and Eileen O'Connor. This is a fairly simple job. They want to enclose their porch. They actually, Erin, if you'll put the screen on, if you could share your screen. Take a look at the map.
Plan, Chuck?
Yeah, the site plan would be helpful. This has been an ongoing project with DEEP. They actually started this project unaware that they needed certain permitting. So the porch was in progress. They're still in a FEMA flood zone, AE11. So that grayed out portion to the southeast is where the porch is. It was an existing patio, and now they're simply going to enclose it. It is enclosed, but they have to remove sections and reinforce it with some footings. And it's a fairly straightforward project. The entire area is lawn. There's a pool to the south, and it's completely fenced in. That dark line is an existing fence line, which the tidal wetlands is right up to the fence. We do have a deep letter, and they had no concerns.
Yeah, we
Right.
read it.
Yep, this is before you for coastal site plan. The on-site critical coastal resource is the tidal wetlands. It is in a special flood hazard zone, as Chuck indicated as well. I did share with you the review comments from DEEP and the details of the extent of work that needs to be completed on the porch, which includes some new footings and reinforcement to comply with building code. As some of this work was completed without permits, this will be a legalization. The only one section of the zoning regulations that's relevant with respect to the coastal resource, there is a minimum setback of 50 feet to a critical coastal resource line. However, there is an exemption provided for work that does not include an expansion of the footprint of the building. And so this particular project falls under that exemption. It's acceptable that it is not compliant with that 50-foot critical coastal resource setback because the building is existing.
Thanks. Seems very straightforward.
Yeah. There are no anticipated problems with this.
And using all hand tools, I thought that was impressive. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Mike and John on Zoom, any thoughts?
No comments.
No comment here.
Okay, I can share a draft resolution. Is that big enough to see?
Yes.
CES read.
Yeah, we can see it. So can I have a motion?
Whoa. Is that too big? Are we too big?
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's
The learning curve here.
There you go.
Looks good. Everyone approve?
Yep.
Motion and
Motion to approve? Yes.
someone could read. To read it. Yeah, we should read it. John Morgan, would you
Yeah,
like to
I
read
can
it?
read it. I can read it.
great. All right. Good.
Voted. Are we ready?
Yes.
Voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approve application 23-28, 125 Garnet Park Road. Map 23, lot 33, zone R-4, owner John Balata and Eileen O'Connor. Applicant Thomas A. Stevens and Associates. Coastal site plan, legalized conversion of open porch to finished living space and modify structure within existing building envelope as needed to comply with the building code within 100 feet of critical coastal as shown in application materials with the following conditions. 1, that the application shall notify the zoning office enforcement officer 48 hours prior to any site disturbance. 2, that any necessary sedimentation and erosion controls be installed and maintained for the duration of the project until the site is sufficiently stabilized to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer.
Great, thank you. So that's the motion. And if I could have a second?
Second.
Janet beat you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So moving
Thank you.
right on to the next one, you may stay, are you staying, Chuck, for this one too? 23-20.
Yes, I am.
Bassett Lane.
Yep.
13, this is another coastal site plan for raising a property to FEMA standards without changing, again, without changing the footprint, as I understand.
Correct. That's correct. Chuck Mandel, agent for the applicant, Eleanor Hirschhorn. So this structure is at the end of Bassett Lane. It's right on the Sound. There is actually, it's in flood zone VE14, which is the velocity zone. So it has to be raised above the zone and elevated on piers with breakaway walls. So we do have architecturals, which if you want to see them, you can, but they just show concrete piers on a grade beam and raised to the proposed level of finished floor 17.4. We had a couple of comments early on from Aaron, and we have addressed it on this plan. One was average grade, driveway location, anti-tracking pad, and connecting the stormwater system. We also have a letter from the Madison Health Department with a code complying septic system as shown in the, I guess that's blue. I'm not sure what color, cyan, whatever color that is, to the north. There is so the elevated staircase, Eversource has their own regulations. So all the meters have to be above the base flood elevation for safety. And that's pretty much it. So the stairway is going to change, but our coverage is not changing at all.
Chuck, do you have an elevation to share?
Yeah, I think, Aaron, was there a elevation? I think there were some elevations that were
a grade
submitted.
elevation or an elevation of the building?
We did have building elevations. We had the grade elevation is the upper right corner where it says average grade, Madam Chairman, 7.2.
Yeah.
But I believe
the building, because I think it is raised slightly, and I thought it would be useful to see how many more feet would be added.
Oh, that's here on the plan. So the existing, the existing finished floor is at elevation 13.5.
Right.
And the proposed finished floor will be at 17.4 with the lowest horizontal member at 16, which is more than a foot above elevation 14. So that's compliant with coastal A zone.
Yeah, there are two elements to that. There's the BFE, which is the base flood elevation, and then there's the DFE, which is the design flood. So everything now is built to the design flood elevation. So all horizontal structural members have to be above the V zone, the VE14, 1 foot above. So we're raising the house about 3.9 feet total. And it's still going to be compliant with the height. We are not asking for any variances for height.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, the only other comments were from DEEP, which were shared with the applicant. And those included, here, open that up.
Yeah, Chuck Mandel. Yeah, mostly were regarded silt fence and protecting the dunes. And
any restoration, right, Chuck, in case
there is any damage. Any restoration to the dunes, right? In case that. Yeah. And this is total. This is consistent with the coastal resiliency plan for Madison.
Yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
We're good.
That's good for this year. Who knows what they're going to do next year?
Another few feet.
There you go.
Next high tide.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if we could have a motion to approve, and Aaron, we have a draft.
I can share that up for you. And just to reiterate, as Chuck indicated, I had some plan review comments earlier in the week that Tom Stevens and Associates have addressed. So I do have a draft resolution for you.
With 3 conditions. Can I ask someone to read it? Anybody see it?
Not long enough to read.
We're all putting our glasses on.
Does it need to be bigger?
Carol, I can do it.
Here, I'll give it a shot. Is that too big?
That's awesome.
Carol, I
Okay.
can do it again. Carol, I can see it fine.
Okay, John Morgan.
Oh,
Go for it.
There's a spelling error. I apologize.
Yeah, the
Oh,
A.
jeez, come on.
That was my Scrivener. It wasn't me.
Spell check.
Yeah. Bill.
All right. I will start reading. Voted that the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission approve application 23-29, 30 Bassett Lane, map 13, lot 21, zone R3. Owner Eleanor H. Hirschhorn, applicant Thomas A. Stevens and Associates. Coastal site plan, elevate existing dwelling for compliance with current FEMA standards and construct new associated egress at front and rear of the residence within 100 feet of critical coastal as shown in application materials with the following conditions. 1, that the applicant shall notify the zoning enforcement officer 48 hours prior to any site disturbance. 2, that any necessary sedimentation and erosion controls be installed and maintained for the duration of the project until the site is sufficiently stabilized to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. These controls shall be located away from the existing dunes to the greatest extent possible. And 3, upon completion of the project, the applicant shall restore any impacted dune areas as recommended by CTD.
Thank you, John. Aaron, just a note, if you could scroll up when we're doing this, it would help because we've got our captions blocking the text.
I couldn't see. Yeah, I don't have a good eye on what you can see versus what I can see. So thank you.
Thank you, John, for reading that.
Direction is helpful.
Second from Janet. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving? It's unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Erin, thanks again for your help.
You got it, Chuck. Thanks.
Okay, have a good night.
You too.
Okay, moving along to 23-31, 105 Circle Beach, map 6, lot 27, zone R5. Owner Barbara Milner, applicant Harkin Engineering. Do we have an?
This is, I have a request to table the application to the August 17th meeting, Madam Chair. Some comments came back from Deep at the last minute, and the applicant hasn't had an opportunity to go over those with staff, so.
Okay, great. And we don't need to make a motion to do that.
Yeah, sure. You can make a motion to table that to August.
You have a motion to table this application.
So moved.
Until August. And a second?
Second.
Bob, seconded. And any further discussion? All in favor? To August. Okay, great. And the rest of these on our agenda items will be also on our August agenda for that meeting. Did you want to talk about them at all briefly, Erin, or should we move along to?
Just to update you, Longshore Lane, again, is going through the inland wetlands process that will include a public hearing. So that's why that's being pushed. An extension has been granted to the commission and the request to table for August. And then the next two are 2 additional EV chargers that the town is proposing in the downtown area, and they require historic district approval. So they'll be going before the historic district next week, and we'll plan to return to you in August as well.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, then on receipt, we have 2232, 503 Old Toll Road. This is a special exception permit modification to allow daycare and preschool services to children 6 weeks of age and older. I need a motion to schedule this for public hearing on August 17th. Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, John. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mike and John Morgan from, you guys okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
In favor, August 17th. Great, thank you. Okay, discussion. This is an informal preliminary discussion for 454 Horse Pond Road, map 84, lot 28, in the RU1 zone, to establish an open space conservation district on an 8.8 acre parcel, almost 9 acres.
Yes, Bob Doan, licensed land surveyor and engineer, on behalf of Tim Mack for Mack Development, is requesting to go through a preliminary discussion regarding a potential open space conservation subdivision, which many of you have not seen yet. The concept, I guess just a very brief overview before you get started, Bob, and I apologize if you were going to mention this. The concept of an open space conservation subdivision is similar to the process of a planned development district. It is a floating zone. And so the initial process that the commission would be considering is acting in a legislative capacity for a zoning map amendment. Basically, an applicant would be coming before you with a proposed master plan concept for this open space conservation district that would be in compliance with section 27, I believe, of the zoning regulations. The designated amount of open space, the density calculations, and if the commission finds that acceptable in reviewing, based under your parameters for reviewing that, you can approve that map amendment. And then there's a second step where the applicant, if it were a clustered style development, would come before you as a site plan approval. If it's a subdivision process, then they would come before you for the subdivision approval. So this isn't a one-stop shop. This is typically a two-part process. So Bob, if you wanted
what
to.
does open space mean in this context? I assumed it meant no housing.
Does that mean
It does not mean no housing. It's a residential development. The minimum open space requirement for an open space conservation district is 50% of the area.
Erin, I just wanted to say that the open space is defined as any land that is not a building lot or covered by parking area, driveway, or roadway. That's in the regulations about what the open space itself will be.
In section 27, is that what you're reading?
27 for 2.11.
Yep. Yes. So the development would have to comply with the regulations in section 27. And so I guess really understanding that compliance with that section is anticipated. It's more the discussion on the general layout and design of the plan that Mr. Doan would like to go over with you.
Great, thanks.
Would you like to bring it up, Erin, or do you want me to share the screen?
If you have it, that's fine. Otherwise I can do it, whatever you want.
I do have it.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is what you see on the screen are actually two parcels at 454 Horse Pond Road. There's a small existing 1.2 acre parcel that we will keep separate. So the parcel that is outlined in pink or magenta, whatever color that is an 8.8 acre parcel. And
Mr. Doan, could you just identify yourself, please?
Oh, yes. Yep. I'm Bob Doan, a professional engineer and licensed land surveyor from Doan Engineering. And what we are proposing, we have roughly 10 acres of land, 1.2 acres is a separate lot. And the 8.8 acre parcel, and I'm not sure how to fix my screen so that the Zoom information is covering up my open space data table.
Oh, you can slide it over if you're able to.
Oh, I can?
You should be able to.
Sorry. You're dealing with a low-tech guy here.
It's quite all right.
Let me see if I can get rid of it. What we have is a 8.8 acre parcel, and we take out the wetlands. There's a formula in the applicable section that allows you to reduce the, and I'm messing up because I cannot eliminate this. There we go. You start with the total acres with 8.8 acres. You take out the wetland area, which is 1.2 acres. The net land area is 7.16 acres. And you divide that by the zone, 80,000 square feet, and you get to add 20%. So what that does, it results in 4.68 dwellings. So we are showing 4 dwellings on the 8.8 acre parcel. We need 50% open space, which we are providing with on the north side, passive open space, and on the south side, active recreational space. This property is a farmland. There's an ancient or historic, I should say, building on the front of the property that is in horrible shape. And we're anticipating that that will be removed through the appropriate process, obviously. And we would build 4 houses on the 8.8 acre parcel. And we're going to take advantage of the proximity of the 1 acre lot and share a common driveway. So we're going to build 1 common driveway serving 5 lots or 5 houses in total. The houses will be developed as condominium ownership, and we'll have a homeowners association that will own and maintain the common driveway, and we'll have limited common elements around each house. Each house will have its own sanitary system. We've done significant testing on the property, and actually the most favorable soil is on the east side of the band of wetlands that runs through the property. We actually share the property with a horse pasture on the south side that is from the neighbors, but the lower portion of the open space is a hayfield, essentially, with the exception of the wetlands that meanders through it. And we would like to have that as active recreational open space, if you will, to benefit the 4 houses that are being built on the property. But as Aaron correctly stated, it is a process. We do need to go through and create the conservation zone. I need to reduce this conservation district to allow this process to proceed. And my next step would be to add more detail to the plan, show the typical houses that we would like to build on the site, and essentially come back to you to get a amendment to the zone map or change in the zoning map. If I stated that correctly, Aaron, I hope.
Right, that's correct. So, yep, we would have engineered drawings. This is also going to require inland wetlands approval,
Yes.
clearly, because it would all be considered a regulated activity.
Yeah, and that is also a next step, is to go before wetlands and get their opinion on the wetland crossing and the sanitary systems within 100 feet of the wetlands.
Are we the first commission you've had any preliminary discussions with?
You're my first conversation.
Okay. And I was wondering if you're going to talk to the Conservation Commission as well, maybe a preliminary discussion with them?
Yes, I can do that. The open space, we're proposing that it be fee owned by the homeowners association, and it will be reviewed as necessary with the Conservation Commission.
Any questions?
Yes, Bob, I'm a little confused. This is Janet Peckinpah. Are there 4 dwellings or 5 dwellings? There are 5 in the photo.
Yes, there
4.
Yeah, there are 4 on the 8.8 acre parcel, which is outlined in the pink shading.
Okay.
We are taking advantage of the location to eliminate a driveway going out onto Horse Pond Road for the 1.2 acre parcel. And we're making that, we're allowing that parcel to share the common driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Is that 1.1 acre parcel not part of the association?
That is correct. It's not part of the 8.8 acre parcel. It's a standalone lot. We simply want to share the driveway. We can make it, they will be sharing in the maintenance of the common drive, so they will be part of the homeowners association. Was that the question? I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
And I'm sorry, you had a question?
Go ahead, Bob.
Sorry.
I think someone said that the open space percentage has to use it 50%.
Yes, that's correct.
And if you add that 1.1 lot in, then I assume you drop below the 50% number. If it's part of the entire
well, that's a good question. If that's technically that 1.2 acres is not part of the zone change. We don't need to make them part of the homeowners association. If that complicates things, we can give them a right-of-way over the common driveway, and that right-of-way allows them to share in the cost. We do want them to feel that they're part of the community, but we don't want that individual lot to diminish the availability to get 4 lots, 4 houses on the property.
What's the current?
So it may turn out that they are not a homeowner, not part of the homeowners association in the conservation open space subdivision calculations, if you will.
Are you creating that lot by first split, Bob? Or does
No, that
currently exist?
That exists today.
Okay.
How much of this housing is affordable?
We're not proposing any of it to be affordable at this stage. there are four separately owned houses that will be developed in accordance with the developer's covenants, which are part of the obviously part of the homeowners association documents.
John Doucette?
So if you didn't pursue the special district, how many houses could you build on the 8.8 acres?
I think we could probably do definitely 3. We had talked about doing a house in this back left corner, but 4 would be a stretch, but I think 3. But you can see by the calculations in the right-hand side of the plan, when we divide the 311,000 square feet by 80,000, we get 3.9. So there's 3.9 houses allowed, but your regulation, and it's the first time I've dealt with this regulation also, your regulation kicks in a bonus of 20%. So we increase it by 20%, and that takes us above the 4. So you're allowed 4.68 dwellings. And it's a lot of towns, when we do an open space subdivision or an open space development, we do have to prepare a conventional subdivision layout. But with your regulations, as I read them, you don't have to do that. You merely go through the math that is outlined in detail in your section.
So in this,
subdivisions?
I'm sorry, what was that, Carol?
Did you want to speak to that point about the subdivision requirement in our?
Well, so in looking at this particular parcel, you're not proposing standalone building lots. Is that correct, Bob?
That is correct. Yeah.
So the process would be the zoning map amendment and then the site plan approval.
Correct.
Not a subdivision.
Not a subdivision. That's right.
Got it.
So what?
So it's one parcel.
Discussion process works. Can we just talk?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not used to an open discussion.
Yeah,
so.
no.
Yes, it's just to get feedback, Bob.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I lost my question. Sorry. We had to change. So what are we changing the zone to? Right now, it's, I guess RE1 is single family, and so this would allow for a condominium style development. That would essentially request a change.
It's an overlay.
It's an overlay.
Overlay, right?
So
Okay.
like-
Well, yeah, it's a floating zone. So essentially you're dropping this particular site plan, not, when the application is made, you would be approving these specific design and setbacks, bulk standards for this zone on this particular property, which would then allow the applicant to apply for the site plan approval.
And then without any detail, I'm assuming then that with the special zoning, the overlay, we would allow the homes to be closer to each other, smaller lots potentially, and maybe the setbacks being different than or
Yes. So it's a similar concept where it allows design flexibility to increase the amount of open space and cluster those houses closer together to allow for greater open space.
And if we were to not approve this overlay and they were to build the 3 homes, would we end up with more open space or less? We're trying to get to the same market.
So an open space requirement for a subdivision is 10%. So, or that could be done as a fee in lieu of dedicated open space. So it's a different, there's a greater open space requirement in the open space cluster.
So there's more in this.
I guess I'm trying to understand.
More housing and more, but less
More
open space.
No, more open space
No.
in this.
How's that possible?
Less,
More housing closer together.
Yeah, because they're clustering it.
right.
Right, but if you build
So
three.
you don't have,
You're not-
basically, Bob, you don't have a minimum of it.
Okay, so the
Yeah, she's good.
open space is not, is this open space accessible to anyone but the homeowners?
It's not open to the public, is it?
No, it's, actually, it closes up
So help
space.
me, so what's the difference, what's the benefit then to, and again, I don't know.
Well, in a,
What's the benefit to open space versus a lawn? It's both regulates it, gets absorbed, processes it. What's the benefit to the town or?
well, I guess just by nature, a lawn isn't necessarily open space. It's not defined as open space.
Oh, yeah.
In a standard, this is a deed restricted, essentially, conservation area on the property that prohibits future development. In a subdivision, you could have a similar requirement, but the regulation can only requires a maximum of the 10%. So this is allowing, more density based on the calculation. But again, that concept of clustering those housing, so you're not bound by a minimum of an 80,000 square foot building lot, and that traditional layout of that subdivision with the minimum frontage and square requirements, like you would in a traditional subdivision.
So you're gonna have to share driveways too.
Yeah, I get that. So maybe that, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's.
two things, right? The motivation,
Yeah.
which
Me
is
too.
one more house.
Right,
If you go this route, it seems like you can get 4 houses in this route versus 3 houses if you just stick with the RE tract designation.
Right.
If you do 3 houses, you're still gonna end up with just as much grassy areas. If you have 4 houses, maybe a little more driveways, I don't know. Maybe it's 6 one, half dozen the other. This massive amount of wetlands, you're not putting many houses on there, right?
you have to be
Right.
careful.
Yeah, you can't build on that
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
Right.
I also wanted to just encourage everyone to look at the section 27.
Yes, I know.
For homework.
I've got to read that. I've got to learn that.
Because one of the things that caught my eye is that this kind of development would have to accomplish all of the purposes in section 27.1.1. Preserve significant land area for recreation, for open space, recreational, agricultural. I'm not gonna read through it all, but what caught my eye also, and I'm gonna just, again, kind of playing devil's advocate about helping us understand this. Preserve and protect exceptional terrain, natural beauty, or sites of historic interest from the insensitive placement of homes, roadways, utilities, and appurtenances. And yeah, so the house, the old house that's there is the 1739 Captain Daniel Hand House, which is historically significant in my mind. It's a wreck. I mean, it looks like a wreck, but I was actually, as part of the discussion, I just wanted to ask if it would be possible to contact some organization like Preservation Connecticut, who can send what they call circuit riders out to help us assess the actual condition of the house. I think this is also me speaking after seeing the general's residence be torn down, and it was presented as a total blighted property that couldn't be saved, yet the demolition crew said they had a really hard time taking it down. It was, the timbers were so strong.
That's great.
That's priceless.
And so I just don't want to make that mistake again. Because it is, I mean, it is a historic house. It's been altered, I think, very much over the years, but I haven't seen the interior. And I just thought it would be great if we could ask to have a professional take a look at it.
Yeah.
And then if there's any way to incorporate, if it could be saved, if there's any way to incorporate it into a beautiful design like this, where you're saving the historic property, and kind of enhancing the whole development by saving it and not building a replica, by the way.
Yeah,
Right.
that doesn't work. That
Yeah.
doesn't ever look like the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not really preservation. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out.
And that could be accomplished. I think it's actually a requirement in tearing down a historic structure. You go through the essentially, maybe not as detailed the process as you described, but you have to thoroughly analyze obviously it's a very historic building, as you mentioned. I didn't dare go in it, but we would. We would certainly. We agree with you. We would get it evaluated to make sure.
Circuit riders are even free. I'm not sure. I haven't done it personally.
Into the unsafe structure letter.
Has it been condemned?
There was an unsafe structure letter on file in 2017.
Oh, so the town engineer is
The building official.
No,
No.
the town engineer is a civil engineer, not a structural engineer.
That
So
was the building official, but I don't know why. Yeah.
but that's
So-
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the process for demolition for a structure over 60 years old does trigger the delay ordinance as well, where those appropriate parties would also be notified of the intended demolition, which has a 90-day delay. And, if there are not comments after the 45 days, the initial 45 days, then the remainder can be waived. However, that is something that will, moving forward, at least knowing in advance, both Bob and Tim did show as well here, to make those efforts ahead of making application, so that you can have worthwhile discussions with those parties about the question.
Yeah. And I think at the very least, it would be great to document whatever there is left of the history of the house thoroughly. Thanks. Okay. Any other comments or thoughts or questions? Mike and John, any other?
Nothing from me, Carol.
Nothing else.
I mean, it is great to have a preliminary discussion like
Yeah,
this.
really, it's very useful.
And kind of candid. Yeah, we appreciate that.
Potential issues.
Building new houses is always good, just trying
Right.
to understand.
Yeah, it's a real opportunity for affordable housing in the hand place, perhaps.
Yeah, using the other example of affordable housing with a historic house on the property. There's a model for it here.
Yeah.
Just to complicate things a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tim has joined us. Would you care to comment, Tim?
Well, I've actually been here. I just didn't have my video. I couldn't quite figure out the Zoom, and I expected that we'd be further down on the list. So I apologize.
They went
for not
through the
joining.
agenda way too quickly.
Yes. So thank you, Aaron, for including me, and thank you, commissioners, for hearing us out and giving some feedback. Really appreciate that. We're open. The idea and my the way I like to do business and my development procedure is all about doing things that are well designed and beneficial to buyers and helpful to the town and conscious of the neighborhood and certainly of historic homes. I know that house is in pretty rough shape. There's actually a local builder who I think specializes in historic homes. My surveyor knew he'd been in the house and said that it was really far gone. But that being said, we would certainly entertain having it evaluated. We will have it evaluated, and if there's some way to use any part of it or to restore it, it would be considered. So, yeah, no, it's a great forum. Really appreciate you guys taking the time and being willing to share this with us.
And Bob and Tim, are you willing at the time of making an application to to kind of show a conceptual layout for a subdivision, just so that the commission can see the difference between a traditional subdivision of this parcel versus what a conservation open space subdivision would look like. You know, not a full detail, but just a general kind of lot area where you could get those squares.
Yeah, well, I was going to say yes right away, but of course it's Bob's time and effort that would be needed to complete.
Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to throw him under the bus without his consent.
I muted because for some reason emergency vehicles are going by, and I thought they were turning in, but they're going by. Thank you.
Glad it's not an emergency.
We can do that. We'll take a look at the conventional subdivision also.
That would be great. Well, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to have a first look.
Yeah, we appreciate your input also, and
Thank you.
We're good.
Okay.
We all set? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Great. Okay, we have approval of minutes. John Duza, minutes from July 6th, 2023.
Sure, for the July 6th, 2023 Madison Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, members present were Snow, Duza, O'Connor, Peckinpah, Waltz, Morgan, and Bugda. There's a motion to approve.
Motion.
A second.
A second.
Any edits, corrections, or comments?
Concise, to the point.
I don't have any either. Vote to approve. All in favor? Thank you.
I abstain.
Great, minutes are approved. Remarks, I have an update on training possibilities. And that is that, Aaron, I don't know if you've heard this from SCROG, but SCROG and Yukon Clear are getting together and presenting and putting together another training session that would meet the 4-hour requirement. And they're planning to do it, I believe, in the fall at say 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. So sort of late afternoon into the evening. So not taking up an entire Saturday. And so for anyone who's interested, we'll as soon as we get the exact dates and everything, I'm happy to share that. I think it might be interesting to do it. I mean, I'm a glutton for punishment maybe, but I think that the more training we can get, the better.
Yeah.
So provide that information.
And that's, did you hear that through the RDC?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I don't think they've released the date of that yet, but I know that Yukon Clear, I know Renata took a position there to help with the education component. So that's great to have.
Yeah, they're making
another face at Yukon,
right,
at the Clear program.
So we'll let you know as soon as we have those dates or date. Aaron, did you have any comments?
Nope.
From Washington, D.C.?
Nope. A little tired, spent the day at the Capitol.
I bet it's hot there.
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, could we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, John.
Excellent.
John Duza, John's, all in favor? Great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria.
This is a record.
Aaron, I got the book, just so you know.
I'm proud of you.
During the meeting.
I'm up to objections from regulations.
We'll have to meet on that.
There'll be a
Good night.